So it's like, I find most people in business get held up. Say for example, a real estate investor. They might say, hey, you know what? I got to get a website before I can do anything. And then it's, hey, you know what? I got to get my logo made before I can do anything. And people get held up in that, like that cyclical thought process. Me, I just go and do it. I'm like, hey, I'm going to go invest in real estate, figure that out. I'm going to knock on doors, and then I'm going to figure out what the next step is. A lot of it with me is all I worry about is the first step. What do I need to do first? I don't think about 10 steps. I think about, okay, if I want to do real estate, what do I need to do?
Hey friends, welcome back to the Evergreen Marketing Podcast by Carrot.com. I'm your host, Brady Winder, and this is where we help you build a business of freedom and impact. Today, we're talking about impact, and I got recurring guest, probably one of the most recurring guests on this podcast, Mr. Bryan Driscoll of Motivated Leads, and now of this awesome book that I'm working my way through called The Goodness Game. Bryan, welcome back, man.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on the podcast. This conversation is near and dear to my heart because something that's always kind of stuck with me, I don't know, maybe somebody told me this when I was young, but something I've always tried to live by is this whole thing about selflessness being sustainable. And I can say in my life, like the things that I've failed at or that kind of fizzled out were self-serving, and the things that did really well or that are still going were motivated by seeing what can I do for other people? How can I serve the other people around me? So I'm super excited to kind of dive into these concepts, the book you've written here, your story, and kind of how this whole idea of doing small good things for other people has really like changed how you approach life and how you approach business. But I'm really excited about it, man. So anyways, I'll try to shut up more, but I want to hear, give me just a little bit of context for who you are, what you do for people that aren't familiar with you and in the industry, and then we'll kind of dive into your story.
Sure thing. Yeah. So Bryan Driscoll, 44 years old. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Married, got 3 kids, 3 sons, 13, 10, and 9 at the time. I own a paper lead company called Motivated Leads. We generate leads for all across the United States for real estate investors. So we do that. We also help with some custom marketing like Facebook ads, Google ads, things like that. And I'm a real estate investor myself. So I got into digital marketing in the real estate space because I had a need. Like I bought my first property as a wholesale deal, found out how much the wholesale fee was. I'm like, I wonder if I could generate leads myself. So that's how I kind of merged digital marketing and real estate.
Yeah. Nice, man. Yeah. And we were just talking before the podcast was going, I'll just as a quick side tangent, TCPA has been changing and consent has been changing in marketing. How are things going in the paper lead space?
Yeah. So here's how it is. So first, I'm not a lawyer because it's a legal thing, but I'm going to give you the rundown on it's called TCPA 1-to-1 consent. Basically what they're saying is when somebody fills out a form, they want you to tell them who is going to be calling them. So if you have a Carrot website, it really doesn't matter because they're filling out your own form. But in the paper lead space, it matters because they're filling out my form, but I'm giving the information to you. So what we do is we just have we have your name pop up before they click submit. It's like, hey, by clicking submit, you agree Brady is going to call you. And then that gets the consent for you there. So it's a technical thing. It's not a big deal to us, basically, because our leads are all exclusive. But some people in the space might have issues.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm glad to hear you guys aren't having a problem tackling in that, and you're doing it the legit way. It's ethical and it makes sense. It's honest to the seller too. But that's cool. You guys are navigating that. I've been curious how that was going to pan out because we saw it coming down the pipeline. Been talking about it. And we're like, hey, January 1st is here. You know.
Yeah. It's a pain in the butt a little bit on the tech side, but if you got your ducks in a row and you got enough time to do it, it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, and paper leads super helpful for like especially people starting out, just like need to get leads in the door fast while they're working on SEO and yeah. Anyways, man, but we're not talking about marketing today. I want to talk about your story. So give me a kind of I'll let you kind of steer this, but give me a synopsis of kind of the goodness game and take me through your story because you got a crazy story, man. You got some wild stuff in your past.
A little bit. Yeah, I used to be a little bit of a wild man, you know?
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so, all right, so it all started back in the 90s. So what happened was I was a knucklehead kid, right? I got pissed at my parents one day. I grabbed a duffel bag and a couple $100 I had, and I took off and I went to the Greyhound station. I'm like, you know what? Give me the next bus leaving. Like literally, like give me the next bus leaving. Turns out I was going to Orlando. So I hop on a bus. I'm going down. I didn't even have a clue where I'm going. And keep in mind, this is before cell phones or Uber or anything. So I hop on there. You ever taken an Uber? Or not an Uber, a bus?
I have not taken Greyhound, no.
Okay, so Greyhound's crazy. Like you meet some real characters on there and it doesn't go straight. You're going like connection to connection the whole way down. So it took almost 24 hours to get to Orlando from Pittsburgh. But on the last stretch, there's a couple there. I was talking to her like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going yet. I'm going to figure it out when I get there. So they took me back to their place and they're like, hey, you can use our phone. We'll call around. We pulled out the yellow pages and we started calling around to find a motel. Ended up finding one. It was a Days Inn. It cost $25 a night. So I'm like, okay, stayed there. But when you only have $200, money doesn't last that long. So I went to a Publix. I don't know. Do you guys have Publix where you're at?
No, but I grew up in Florida in the South. So yeah, Publix.
So, Yeah. So I went to a Publix. I'm like, I'm going to go get a job. So I went and tried to get a job. If you don't have an address or phone number, you can't fill out an application. So I grabbed the manager. I'm like, I'm just going to sell my way into the job. And I probably could have too, except for they say you don't get paid for a couple weeks. I'm like, well, dude, I kind of need like paid quicker. I'm running out of cash. I don't know anywhere to go. So that didn't work. So then what I did was I found out they have these places called job labor pools. It's like where you go, you sign up for the day, you stand there, somebody drives up and they pick you, you work for the day doing manual labor, and then they pay you at the end of the day. So I found that place, got picked, and then I ended up, I was carrying scaffolding like all day long in a super hot sun. Looking back, I'm pretty sure I was carrying the scaffolding. They were building the animal kingdom, that big tree.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that's where I was working.
That's cool.
So I did that, and then I was only making like $25. The hotel was $25, and I didn't have any food. I didn't have any like food for or money for food. So like I started running out of cash, and I didn't have enough money for a room one night. So I'm like, you know what? I saw the Greyhound station when I saw it before. I'm like, I'll bet you I can crash there, and no one's gonna notice. Like they're just gonna think I'm waiting for my bus. So I got my stuff and I started walking to the Greyhound station. Like I was going to be homeless. I didn't know where I was going.
Yeah.
And then some lady pulls up. I remember I was walking. It was like a C-class neighborhood, like not a ghetto, but it wasn't nice. And I'm walking through there and she like looked over and she pulled over. She had a black Geo Tracker. And she looked over and she's like, hey, it doesn't look like you belong here. Where are you going? And I explained it to her and she offered to take me back to her house. It was like 50 minutes away with her family. And they put me up. Like they helped me out, which looking back on it, I'm like, who freaking does that?
I read that in the beginning of the book, and I was like, what the heck? Were you skeptical?
At the time, no, but like looking back, dude, I was like, I was in for some serious problems coming. You know what I mean? But like looking back at it, I'm like, I don't know, like someone was looking out for me there because people don't do that. Normally, sometimes people will pull over and give you a couple of bucks if you got a sign saying you're homeless. I'm just walking, minding my business, and a random lady interrupts my walk for some reason. Who knows why? And like, she could have saved my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that's awesome, man. That's crazy.
Yeah. So she takes me back to her house. It was a ranch, like a 1-story house. I remember it because it had a white fence around it. There was a horse, which was weird because most people don't have horses like just on a regular house.
Just in the suburbs. Yeah.
Yeah. So I walk in. We had spaghetti dinner. With her husband and her son. Her son was old, like an adult. It wasn't anything fancy, just like ragu or something. And then in their house, they had it's like you walked in and on the right, there was a hallway down there. And the first door on the right had a mattress on the ground. And she's like, yeah, you can crash there. And it was a cat's room. So I'm like, that's cool. I'm actually allergic to cats. For some reason, it didn't bother me. But they had this freaking cat, dude. It was like probably sitting down 2 feet tall. I don't know what breed it was. But anyway, so they put me up and then I'm looking back and I'm like, it's just odd, right? It's just like a blessing.
Yeah. So
what happened was they helped me get a job at like the Marriott where her husband worked. I think that was the company. They put me up lent me a couple $100 for a motel rooms until I got there, until I got the job, like till I got a paycheck. Long story short, I ended up coming back to Pittsburgh and I owe this lady $300 because she paid for me for those last couple times before I got paid. So I owe her $300, went back to Pittsburgh, I was always a troublemaker, right? So I got back, I drank a lot, stuff like that, partying, didn't even think about it. Like I didn't think it was a big deal. I started going back, and time just went by. I'm like, she would pop up on my mind every once in a while. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I owe her $300, right? Longer I went, like years would go by, and I'd start thinking about her more. I'm like, I wanted to pay her back. So I started making money, things like that. And then I didn't know how to get a hold of her because I didn't have any contact information for her anymore.
Yeah.
So at the same time, I saw the movie Pay It Forward. Did you ever see that?
No, I have not seen it. No, I only know it from the book.
Okay, yeah. So Pay It, you should check it out. It's a really good movie. But basically, Pay It Forward, the thought is, it's like, I'm going to do you a favor. Instead of you paying me back, you pay it forward. So the deal in the movie is, I'm going to help you. The deal is you pay it forward to 3 people. And then each one of them pay it forward to 3 people. It's like a big spider effect. So I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. So I started doing that because I couldn't pay this lady back, you know? So I started just helping people randomly. And then about 10 years later, I got an idea. I'm like, I wonder, everyone always says small acts make a big difference, help each other out. Like, but is it real? Like, can you back it up? So I had an idea. It's kind of a crazy idea. I was sleeping late at night. It was super late. And my brain was just running. And I'm like, I wonder what would happen if I went onto Craigslist, went to a random city, and offered people, I'm saying, I'm going to help you out. All I want you to do is, in return, is pay it forward. So I posted the ad on Craigslist.
And wait, was this, I'm just curious, was this like only, when you envision this, like only in a certain region in the US? I'm like, oh crap, what if he gets like, Seattle,
Right. Well, you know what I did? I randomly picked a city. So I took my mouse and I just like spun it around.
Yeah.
And on Craigslist, they have city profiles, right?
Yeah.
So I posted it in the Chicago. That's where I ended up landing, which I wish I would have picked like Ohio or something, because Chicago is not super close to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So I posted on there, and I'm like, yeah, basically I'll help you out. Whatever you need, just pay it forward. I started getting bombarded with emails. A lot of people are like, hey, this is really cool. If it's legit. And then just like some weird stuff. And then I got 5 people though that responded with legit things. One guy, his name was Mike. He just needed a ride to pick up a car he bought. And like, we didn't have Uber back then. So it's like, that was actually a thing that people needed rides. One lady, she just needed help taking down a swing set. One dude was actually helping somebody else out, got a bathroom. And I just went over and helped him out for a couple hours, like carrying the debris down a couple flights of steps. One dude needed a car battery. That's the only one that cost money. Everything else was just time. And a 5th guy, he worked at a homeless shelter. He's like, yeah, if you got any like extra shoes, jackets, stuff like that, if you want to bring them, that would be cool. So what I did was I hopped in my car on a Friday, and I had an old camcorder, like the ones that you pull out on the side.
Yeah. You used to make stop motion with them as a kid.
Yeah, exactly. So what I did was, I'm like, I'm going to document this. I don't know why. Like, I just took pictures and like stupid stuff, you know what I mean? And I took off Friday, went and did all this stuff, came back on Sunday, hopped on Windows Movie Maker with the content I just had, and put it on YouTube. And it's actually on our website. Everyone can check it out later if they want, but it's an old video that's like pixelated. It's like 9 minutes long. But what happened was, I put it on YouTube back then. People started hitting me up. They're like, you know what? That made me feel good. I went on and did something for somebody or whatever, like all these different things. And then this girl hit me up, and she was from the press. She's like, hey, you know what? I wanted to see, can we do a story on you, on what you did? And I told her, I'm like, hey, the deal is, it's not about me. Like, I don't want this to be about, hey, there's some white kid that comes from a good neighborhood or whatever. Like, I wanted it's not about a specific person. I said, I'll do a story with you as long as you keep it anonymous. And she's like, I don't know if we can do that. And I had a couple other media outlets hit me up too, and they said, we can't do that. We need a person. Yeah. But she came back and she said, you know what? The editor said that's fine as long as we can talk with the people you helped, verify everything was accurate. And they did. So they wrote a story on me anonymously, and it went viral. It's just like worldwide press.
That's awesome.
So I'm like, so in my head, I'm sitting there thinking, like, on a data side, okay, I can do something. Now I can actually track one action did make impact, even though I can't see it. Like, you can't see what people do when they read an article, but when it's on the front page of the news, it's getting eyes and people are seeing it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, one small thing or medium thing can make a difference and have a ripple effect.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where everything came from. And that was 2009. So ever since 2009 until now, well, actually, I'm going to take a step back. In 2009, I was talking with a buddy, and I'm like, dude, I want to do this. Like, I want to see if I can make a difference in the world. He said, he said, you can't help people when you're broke. He says, go out and make some money and then come back to it. And I thought about it. I'm like, okay, that makes sense because you can make a little bit of impact when you're broke, but you got to help yourself. So what I did is I focused on business for like the next 10, 15 years. Always in the back of my mind, I'm like, I want to do something, but I didn't know what it was. And then this last year, things clicked and I met the right people. And I'm like, okay, I'm putting it into a book and making it into a game to try to inspire others to know that like small acts can make a big difference.
Yeah, that's cool, man. And this came out just this last year, right?
Yeah, just like
a
month or two ago.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. What's some of the response been like as you've kind of gotten out there? What have some of the stories?
The main response I'm getting from people is, boy, that really makes sense, that I should look inside and see like what I'm built for example, when helping people. Or it's nice to see positive things out. A lot of people are like, hey, it's nice to just see something positive. A lot of people are also saying, it's like, hey, this really makes sense for me, and breaks it down into bite-sized pieces, and it's not overwhelming. Like, hey, you better go out and start a nonprofit or like do something really big to make a difference in the world.
Yeah. So I want to hear about the rules of the game, but first I'm just like you've piqued my curiosity. Where does this like innate need or desire to just keep doing these things come from? Like you could tell when you were talking about like needed to pay the lady back the $300, there was almost this like debt. Like I could tell when you're talking, like, I'm not okay with this debt. I got to repay the debt, but then it keeps going.
Right. Well, I haven't paid her back yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I still have this debt out there.
You think if you find her, she's going to hear this podcast. She's going to show up and you're like, okay, I'm good now. We're good.
You know what? That would be crazy. We'd have a good conversation, right?
You would.
But I think what I noticed though is like, initially it's like, okay, I'm paying it forward because I got to pay this debt, right? I feel a guilt. And then I started realizing too, it feels good to help other people, especially like I like helping people with knowing who I am.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool because then it lets me imagine. It's like, hey, you know what? You donated shoes to the homeless shelter. Some dude, you don't know who he is, just got a pair of shoes. He's not freezing because it's cold in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I get help from it also. Like it feels good, you know? So, and it's also kind of like a game. And what I do is I put aside, like every month, I got this a long time ago. I don't know if I got it from like Dave Ramsey's thing or somewhere. I pull aside like a certain percentage of my income and put it into a give account. And I just keep my eyes open for when somebody has something they need or a need pops up. That money's dedicated already. It's not like I'm spending my money anymore. So I kind of use that too. So it's really cool because I just get to keep my eyes open. I don't have to feel like I'm spending my money anymore.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, and it's just a habit at this point.
It is, yeah. Like every time I get paid, I just put money over there and it grows. And then it's weird. Something pops up that somebody's got a real problem. I don't even have to think twice about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Just boom, go do it. That's satisfying.
Yeah.
Tell me kind of let's lay out the rules of this game and yeah, kind of walk me through this, man.
All right. So here's the rules. When I was thinking about this, have you ever seen Fight Club?
Yes. I was actually just rewatching it actually last week. I was like, it's been a while. It's a classic.
Fight Club's awesome. So I was thinking about this. I'm like, okay, I want to make this like Fight Club. Say the rules. Fight Club. What's the number one rule of Fight Club? You don't talk about it, right? So I'm sitting there thinking about helping other people. It's cringy and not proper. It's like you're bragging. It's not proper to brag about what you do. Like you should do things and you do them because it's good. So I'm like, okay, rule number one is you give without remembering. So there's different ways you can play the game, but the first rule is you don't tell people what you're doing. You just do it out of the kindness of your heart. So it's like there's first way is you help and nobody knows, not even the person you helped. The second way is you help and the recipient knows who you are, and then there's two people that know. You don't go bragging, you don't go posting on social media, hey, I'm helping these people out or whatever. The only way that you can tell other people, like the contingency, if you want to call it, is if it's for the greater purpose. So it's like, hey, say my neighbor is sick and we want to rally up the neighborhood to maybe one person makes food every night for the month. Things like that. It's like, it's okay to tell other people and be loud about it if the intention is to involve other people in the game for goodness, not for self-serving things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That makes sense. Yeah.
So that's one of the roles. Another role is not everybody's your assignment. So I find a lot of people when they're trying to help, they get caught up in, let me just try to help everybody, even if it's not like my area. For example, say somebody had a drug or mental problem and they came to me. I can't really help them. Like I'm not specialized in that area. And if I got involved in their life, I could potentially do more harm than good. My job's mainly to connect them with the people that are built for that. Right.
Yeah.
So that's one of the rules. It's like, be aware, not everybody's your assignment, and also watch out for like tricky people, like tricksters and schemers, because some people you may help out and they mistake kindness for weakness. Then they keep coming back and taking advantage too. So you want to make sure to protect yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And some people will catch on and then play into a softer heart and try and take advantage of you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I go through that too. It's like, okay, here are the things on that side, what to look for. Don't overextend yourself. Then we're looking at burnout. It's like, make sure to budget. Don't burn out. So for example, you're either spending time or money. Like you got sweat or money is what you're spending playing the game. So both of those you want to budget. It's like for me, I put a certain amount of money aside. That's my budget. So I don't have to think about it. And it doesn't, it's not like somebody just came up and I have very little funds. And now I need to think, do I help them or not be able to eat tonight? Or something. That's kind of drastic, but you know what I mean? It takes away that decision. Budget it so it's comfortable because you don't want to hurt yourself. So the other thing I started looking at is one of the rules is identify your helping style. So I look at it as like everybody's built for something and not for others. Like in business, you know what I mean? So for example, I'm built like my helping style is to help people financially. I'm the connector or I'm the brainstormer, right? Yeah. I'm not the person that you would call to change your brakes, stuff like that, rake your leaves.
Yeah.
And I look at it, it's like, if you find out what you're built for, when you do that, you don't feel bad at the end. Like you don't lose your energy. You don't lose your motivation. You're actually hyped up when you're done. So I came up with 5 helping styles. It's like you're a sweat helper, financial helper, empathetic helper, connector, or a thinker. And it's like, find out what you are. Most people are like multiple. Most people have 2 or 3 of them. But I think that's really important because it's like, if you can figure out what you're built for, you can do it forever. You know, like you just get in the mode and you just enjoy what you're doing. If you're doing stuff you're not built for, like for me, cutting grass, that would drive me freaking bonkers. I'd be so beat at the end of the day, depleted, all that kind of stuff. So it's like, find out what your helping style is, which I break down how to do that. You can also go on a website and like just take a quiz and it will tell you. But that one's really important there.
Nice. Tell me about the empathetic and the thinker, because the others are self-explanatory, but you had me curious on those.
Yeah, like empathetic is like say you're dealing with the homeless, for example. Sometimes, like I have a friend that deals with the homeless. They go feed them every Friday and they round people up. They said a lot of people that are homeless, they don't necessarily they obviously need the donations and things like that, but they just want to be heard. Like they just want to know that you see them. For example, they said one person, there was a large guy that like, he was too big for most like underwear and stuff. So someone came down and got him, like just went out and bought underwear, and they came down and called him by name. And he said that made such a big difference that they knew his name even more than what they just bought for him. So it's like things like that, being empathetic. Sometimes your friends might just need an ear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's helping. It's like someone just going through a divorce or bad time in business or someone passed away. A lot of those people, the way you're helping them is to just be quiet and listen.
Yeah. And you talk about like how important it is. I don't know if it was during the podcast or before, but we're talking about having a budget, for your time and your money. I feel like having a time budget is critical there, because if you don't plan for it, hope for it, expect it, then it can almost confuse you and be like, this is annoying. I don't have time for this. I don't have time for this conversation. Am I going to blow them off? But it's like, no, this is important. This is mission critical. Yeah. I like that one.
And on the budget side too, sometimes you have to watch too, because sometimes you start giving too much. Like you'll get hyped up into it.
Yeah.
Because you feel good. You can't go donating all your time and neglecting your family or your work. And then the thinking one, it's just basically like a lot of people come to me, probably you too. They're trying to start a business or talking about things like that. So you're talking with them, helping them out with you're using your brain. Yeah. So it's like, I can help you with my brain because of my past experiences. I can help you maybe avoid some of the mistakes I've made, help you be better off. So that's one way. It's like, so for me, I like connecting people. I like talking to you and helping you solve problems so you can be better off. And if you need money, I'd rather do that than spend my time, because I have very limited time these days, you know? Other people, my wife, totally opposite. She's the empathetic one. She works with special needs kids, which I couldn't do. That would that would be horrible for me. But she's like the empathetic person that she can do that, and she gets energized from that. With me, I'd be like depleted so bad at the end of the day if I did that.
Yeah. The thinking one is interesting. It's out of all the investors I've met and talked to, from what I see, the ones who do really well, and by do really well, I mean like at least moderately successful, but more so have fulfillment and joy, and they're happy and they're productive in what they're doing, are the ones that are an open book, and the ones that are willing to guide and coach and, help out someone who's just trying to wrap their head around wholesaling, or a newer investor who just doesn't really know what they're doing. The investors, Jeremy Resmer, he's one that comes to mind. He's been really successful, and he has no problem spilling his secrets and talking to other people. I mean, there's a million others that I could mention in our ecosystem, but anyways, I just think it's really interesting how like the people who hope and expect to invest time in others and be that thinker helper are the ones who I see thriving from my little worldview,
Yeah. And they thrive. And a funny thing is too, it's like, I might give somebody a tip. It could change their life, or someone could give me a tip. It's like, no big deal. It's like, dude, you're doing this. This is all wrong. Do this. Yeah. And for the person that's just starting out, they're just experiencing it. You could have saved them 5 years of failure, or you could have just like kept them in the business, because maybe that would have broke them. Maybe the failure that they just avoided was the thing that would have broke them, and you kind of helped them succeed a little bit and get a win.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because in the moment sometimes, at least for me, it doesn't feel like anything. And it might be like, oh, I'm just telling them what I know, whatever. But to them, yeah, it could mean the world. Yeah. It's huge.
What's even stuff like you do with the songs, you know what I mean? It's like, that's something easy for you, but that can make a world of difference to somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's easy for me, but yeah, some other people can't do it. That's cool, man. How, Bryan, has this changed how you approach business? So do you kind of view the goodness game as like just this thing you do on the side, or is it kind of permeated your life? How has it changed how you approach business in life?
Yeah, well, it's basically me. Like, this is just how I roll in general. Yeah. So the goodness game is kind of like, I had an idea. I'm like, how do I package this up to like explain what's in my head to other people? So like I always live, I'm just like, do to other people what you want done to you. In business and personally. In business, it's hard. Like, I have noticed in business, the bigger you get, the harder it is to stay ethical in all spaces, because it's like the bigger you get, there's a lot of people that cut corners. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So it's like the larger you get, if you want to get to a certain level, you have to do maybe 10 times the work, or take the really, really hard routes, knowing you might get mud on your face, you're going to fail or whatever, and still making the decision to do those kind of things. So it's like, that's basically what I look at on that side. It's like, do the right thing, which everybody can do, like I think most people try to do that too. But in business, it's easy to get caught up in, hey, you know what? Here's the easy way. Why don't you just do this?
Well, it's the industry standard, or the other companies are doing it, makes it acceptable. Yeah.
It's just business is what everyone says. Like, I'm like, so I have that core compass. Everyone has their own core compass. Like, it's how you're brought up. So it's just the way I was brought up, But yeah, it permeates me. And then I'm a giver by nature, like by heart. So I actually have a problem. It's like, if I see somebody in need, I actually have to start thinking to myself now too. I'm like, I need to hold back, because like, I don't have enough time to do this stuff. You know what I mean? Or sometimes I try to help too much. It's like, for example, if we're talking and you had a Facebook account, back in the day, I'd be like, hey, you know what, Brady, let's hop down. Let's take a look at it. And before you know it, I'm running your campaign for you. Now you got me in your ad account running. You might be uncomfortable. I'm sitting there thinking, what did I get myself into? Because now I'm like feeling like I have a job. You know what I mean? So it's like, sometimes I have to limit myself too and be like, okay, hey, let's be real here,
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny, man. Yeah, it's super interesting. So you said, you're a giver by heart. I see that from my own personal experiences and the book. What I believe that we're all created to to give, but I think some people just haven't tapped into it or realized it, or what their version is. Maybe they think it looks or feels a certain way. What kind of advice do you have for people who think that's just not my thing?
Yeah, I think it is. First, find out what your helping style is.
Yeah.
And then I would look at, okay, the things that you could help with, you're probably totally thinking about it wrong. You may be thinking, hey, I need to go hand out soup at the soup kitchen. Maybe that's not your thing. Maybe your thing is to go talk to seniors. Maybe your thing is just answer your phone whenever the problem arises and help out. Or maybe your thing, it could be like super small things. I think most people think they make a difference, they have to do something like really, really big.
Yeah.
Could just be something small. It could be buying someone coffee. Like just going through the drive-through, paying for the person behind you. That person could have a crappy day. Like even something small like that could change their day because then they're like, oh, wow, that was nice. And it changes the trajectory of their day, the negativity. Or even like, say you're driving in traffic, letting the guy in that, like, you know how those guys like scoot up to the front of the line when there's big traffic and try to cut in? It's like, well, just let him in anyways, because you figure even just that, relieve that dude's stress if he's getting in there. It's just like something super, super small. Yeah. Probably will never make an impact on anything, but it might.
It's funny. You're speaking to my soul, man. I cringe when you say that. It's the most relatable thing. It's like, my ego is too big, Bryan. I can't let him in.
Right. It's like you keep inching up and it's like, okay, it's just like really, really small things. It's like, okay, when you see the kid,
yeah,
like just listen. Cause a lot of kids are trying to talk to you and you're like not listening. And it's like, just be aware and care about people. And the small things though, it's like super, super small. And I think most people think it has to be something like a cause and effect, and you see the effect immediately.
Yeah.
You have to be okay with, I'm going to do something. I'm most likely never going to see the outcome. You have to like know that ahead of time. It's like, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm never going to know the outcome. Like, for example, giving homeless people money, right? Someone on the side of the street. My dad taught me this a long time ago. He gave him money. I'm like, how do you know he's not going to buy drugs with it or like blow it? He's like, it's not my job. He says, my job's to help them if I'm doing better than them. And it's out of my hands after that. Yeah. And also, you may help 30 people. 29 of people might do something like just blow it off and it doesn't help them. But that one person could make a difference in their life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You know, one of my favorite examples, someone who made an impact on me, there's Seth Bueckley is a friend of mine, friend of Trevor's, is local to our community, been a really successful entrepreneur and investor. And he was doing a thing years ago called Free Lunch Fridays, where it was, I think every other Friday, he would just like have lunch with a young aspiring entrepreneur or somebody that was, I don't know, at least interested in business and had questions. And so he was just kind of having lunches, buying people lunch. Or I think it was you buy him lunch. That was the deal. It's like, hey, you buy me lunch, I'll have lunch with you. I don't know, kind of tongue in cheek, but it was cool. But like, buy me lunch and I'll sit down and guide and coach and just give you an hour or so of my time. And that was really cool. It's like, just, successful people in the community just saying, hey, I'm available. I'm here. I'm a resource. Like, we need more of that. And it's small. It's easy for the person, but it makes huge difference, like huge ripple effect, like you're saying.
Right. And the funny thing is, like with what he's doing, he could plant a seed in someone's head. They don't even realize for 10 years. Mm-hmm. Like just by having that lunch, he plants a seed there and it's like they go about in their life. And then 10 years later, an opportunity pops up and he connects the dots of what he learned there and it helps him out,
Yeah, planting seeds. It's not always immediate. Planting seeds is huge, man.
Yep.
Well, cool, man. I love this. I love what you're doing. I'm really enjoying the book. I'm on page 61 right now. I can't wait to finish it up. I'm already getting some little tidbits out of it. So I would encourage people to go check it out. What's the website? thegoodnessgame.com.
Yeah, it's right? No that. It's just goodnessgame.com.
Okay, goodnessgame.com. So everybody go check it out. I'll put a link in the show notes. Here's a note I want to end on, Bryan. So one thing I've noticed about you is that you're quick. You're a quick guy. And I mean that in a good way. You're very decisive, and you move fast. Like in your book, you talk about you had every business failure and entrepreneurial failure you can imagine, and then eventually figured it out. Invested in real estate. You got a successful marketing business with motivated leads. How? Like how do you move so quickly? How are you that decisive? Was this something in your upbringing, conscious decision? Do you even recognize it?
Yeah. So I used to not be as decisive. And I found out there's a couple things. Number one, I learned to be uncomfortable. I actually kind of thrive now being uncomfortable because that means you're growing. But like, I would just get punched in the face so much. It's like, I'm going to do things. And like in the book, we were talking earlier too, like I used to be a troublemaker, man. I spent some time in like the mental ward. I spent some time in like a lot of drinking problems, stuff like that. So I found cause and effect really, really fast because I was a little bit impulsive when I was younger. But in business, it helped me out also too because it helps me make decisions quickly. So now I can kind of make decisions based on the past and see, okay, does this make sense for me? And then I can take action quickly, but I also know when to quit something. So it's like, I find most people in business get held up. Say for example, a real estate investor. They might say, hey, you know what? I got to get a website before I can do anything. And then it's, hey, you know what? I got to get my logo made before I can do anything. And people get held up in that, like that cyclical thought process. Me, I just go and do it. I'm like, hey, I'm going to go invest in real estate, figure that out. I'm going to knock on doors, and then I'm going to figure out what the next step is. So I think a lot of it with me is all I worry about is the first step. What do I need to do first? I don't think about 10 steps. I think about, okay, if I want to do real estate, what do I need to do? Okay, I need to find somebody that wants to sell their house. Once I do that, okay, now what do I do? I wouldn't even know. It's like, okay, now I start Googling, hey, who can help me dispo this or figure out even what to do with the contract, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Has that bit you? Like being the just one step at a time guy, has that bit you, like not having a larger strategy?
Yeah. Somewhat. Now in business, I do have a long-term strategy now, but I look at it as just like taking jabs. You know what I mean? So I just take jabs all the time and I see what happens. If I get a positive outcome from it, I go to the next step. And I'll do that until I like prove the model. Once the model's there, then it's like, okay, let's spend some time here and like actually think this through. But the initial phases of everything for me, like for example, even the Goodness Game book, I'm just like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to start writing. I'm going to see what happens. Like I didn't know how to do editing. I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. I just wrote the book. First, I free wrote. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to make this into a book, but I just did the one step. It's like, okay, free write every single day for like 4 months. Then take all that and consolidate it. So it's like, just do the first thing, then do the next thing. You know where you're going. You don't need to know how each step is going to happen though, because then you get overwhelmed.
Yeah. Interesting. That's good. I really like that. Just free writing every day for 4 months. That's really cool, man.
Yeah. It was cool too. I've never done it before.
Yeah, I haven't done it for that long. I've done it in short spurts, but it does wonders for your creativity when you can build in like creative habits like that. It's amazing. Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That will, if you want to write a book, that'll help you write a book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, man. I appreciate that insight there. I just had to know. I'm like, dude, I can count on one hand the people like yourself who I've met, and I'm just like, dude just moves so fast. He's decisive in a good way, not too fast, but just like he just knows where he wants to go, and you just fail forward. So yeah, I appreciate that. It's inspiring, man.
Hey, Brady, one other thing I'll leave you with on that too. Yeah. When I make a decision, I stick with it. That's one thing. Like a lot of people make a lot of these different decisions and bounce. It's like, okay, if I make a decision, I'm sticking with it for some period of time to give it a shot. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I think that's really important for people. It's like, number one, make the decision, but commit as well. Don't just make the decision and when stuff gets hard, you quit. It's like, make the decision, follow it through. Like, for example, marketing. If you're going to do a marketing channel, give it at least 3 to 6 months. Don't sign up for pay-per-click and run it for a week.
Yes. Thank you for saying that and backing us up.
Right. Yeah. But it's like,
tired of people like, I tried PPC, I tried SEO, I tried this. And like, okay, did you really try? And for how long?
Right. And like, say, even with writing the book, it's like, okay, I could have chose to free write for 3 days and then you quit. It's like, no, I'm going to commit to doing this for a couple months. At the end of that time, then I'm going to decide if I want to do the next step, but I'm going to complete this part of it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool, man. I appreciate it. Like I said, it's been inspiring seeing you, bring the Goodness Game to life. I'm excited to finish the book, and yeah, thanks for the conversation, man. It's been cool getting to hear your story and pick your brain.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. I know Motivated Leads. We have you guys in the marketplace. Just go to marketplace.care.com. Check out Motivated Leads. Great way to supplement your SEO, pay per lead. It's good stuff. Where else can people find you and connect with you?
They can find it. If they want the book, Amazon or goodnessgame.com. Hit me up on LinkedIn. Go through our website, Facebook. Just look me up, Bryan with a Y, Driscoll.
Nice. Bryan with a Y, Driscoll. All right, man. Well, I appreciate it. Everybody, if you got value out of this, please share it. Share it with 3 people. Pay it forward. Share the episode and go out there, do something good, do something kind for people. It just stinking feels good. So Thanks, Bryan. Thanks for everyone listening. We'll see you later.